Recording started.
Okay, so the time is 5:04, 2021, and I would like to call this meeting of the Sustainability Commission to order in the interest of the public health and safety of the Governor's Executive Order N2920. Members of the Sustainability Commission and staff are participating in this meeting by teleconference. In accordance with the Executive Order, the public may view this meeting online, but not in conference room C101 in Building A at City Hall, Chula Vista, California. The city launched a virtual commenting portal, eComment, that allows residents to comment and participate in the meeting from their own homes. You can find the link to eComment at www.chulavista.gov/virtual meetings. Your comments must be received before I call for the close of the commenting period in order to be considered. After the commenting period is closed, I will announce a brief pause to allow the commissioners time to read any comments that have been received. If you have difficulty or are unable to submit a comment, please contact the Sustainability Commission staff for assistance at ssc@Chula Vista, California, or chulavistaca.gov. Would the secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner Bott?
Please put her.
Present. Sorry.
No worries.
Commissioner Guevara Gluyas? Commissioner Corrigan?
Here.
Commissioner Legaspi?
Ed.
Commissioner Legaspi?
He's waiting. Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Present.
Commissioner Richardson? Commissioner Rodriguez? And Chair Matthias.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the first order of business is the consent calendar. I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on items in the consent calendar. As a reminder, commissioners, please refresh your view on your screen to ensure the new comments appear.
Yes.
Okay, in regards to approval of the minutes on the meeting on March 8th, the commenting period for this item is now closed. Have the commissioners had, oh, I don't think there was anything. Correct, Manuel? No comments?
No comments, right, Monica?
There was no comments received. The only thing that I did receive an email from Commissioner Rodriguez, and she just wanted to clarify of something that she spoke on regarding the, let's see, she wanted regarding a comment she made about Epic. So that's going to be noted on the record.
Okay, so is there anything that needs to be pulled for discussion? It's just going to be noted?
Yeah, it's just going to be
Okay.
changed to the way she wanted it to be worded.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for March 8th, 2021? Someone want to approve it?
I move to approve the minutes from March 8th.
Okay. Anyone want to second that?
I'll
Okay,
second.
so I have a motion to approve the minute by Ba for first and second by Richardson. So Secretary or Manuel, would you please conduct the roll call vote?
Just to clarify, the role of secretary is back to Monica. So Monica will be conducting those roll call votes.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take the vote now. Commissioner Vaughn,
Aye.
Commissioner Guevara Gluyas, she's absent. Commissioner Corrigan,
Aye.
Commissioner Legaspi,
Aye.
Commissioner Richardson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez, absent, and Chair Matthias.
Aye.
Thank you.
Rodriguez is here. Her name is popped up, but she's not on view.
That's Monica.
FYI.
That's Monica, yeah.
Oh, that's the other. Okay, sorry, Monica.
No problem.
It's really throwing me off.
Yes, it's okay.
Okay. So let's see. So then approval of the minutes passes unanimously. Okay, so public comments. Public comments is a section in the agenda for members of the public to address the board on items that are not listed in the agenda. I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final public comments. And ask commissioners, please remember to refresh your screen to ensure the new comments appear. Okay, see no comments. We'll go ahead and move on. Items
Chair, I'd like the record to reflect that the virtual meetings page says this meeting started at 6 o'clock. So we may not have public comments because that time was incorrect on the website. That needs to be in the minutes of the meeting, please.
That sounds good. Can you please reflect that, Monica?
Yes, I will go ahead and do that.
I'm wondering if we should take a few minutes and make some comment or make some contacts to the people that we know that normally attend and reach out to them and let them know that the time has changed. Would you guys be would that be okay, Manuel, if we did that? Because I think they need to know what's going on.
Yes, we could contact some of the usual attendants from SD 350 and others.
Let's take a, what do you want to say? A couple minutes to do that?
Yeah, do you want to adjourn, or I'm sorry, not adjourn, do you want to do a recess maybe until 5:20, 5:25, something like that?
Yes, that sounds good. Let's do 5:25. Let's give everyone a chance to give it your people you know that would, that's perfect. Thank you.
Yep. We'll reach out to the clerk's office as well to let them know that that was incorrect.
Should I pause recording or not?
So just let it continue, Yasmin.
Yep.
Because
Okay.
I'm taking, it's just noted on the record that they're taking a recess and they're gonna come back in 10 minutes. I'll note it again to make sure that they did come back at that time. So you could just let it continue.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, can we go ahead and continue?
Yes, and I wanted to let you know, I reached out to the clerk's office. They said we're okay to continue as is since the agenda said 5 p.m. And they've also just updated the virtual meetings page. And in addition, we reached out to some of our usual community members to let them know that it's at our usual time and that we paused for a few minutes to let folks catch up.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you. Okay, so items requiring no action. So the next item on the agenda is 5.1 under presentation. And it's the 5.1 Chula Vista Quality of Life Indicators. Does staff have a presentation?
Yes, so I wanted to pass it over to our two staff from planning. We have Kimberly Elliott and Kim Vanderby, and I will run the slides for them, but I'll pass it over to them.
Great, thank you so much. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Kim Elliott, and I'm the Facilities Financing Manager in Development Services. And I'm here, here with me is Kim Vanderby, an associate planner who has actually managed the growth management program for the last 14 years. Since we're both Kims, I know that can get confusing, so you may call me Kimberly to avoid confusion. So Kim and I have embarked on a comprehensive review of the city's growth management program. And we've been working with the Growth Management Oversight Commission for several months now in this process. And tonight, I would like to give you all kind of a brief history of the growth management program and how it's been operating over the last several decades, and kind of where we are today in looking at a whole new way to look at this. And then we specifically want your input on the sustainability topic. So next slide. So just to give you a brief overview, during the 1980s, as some of you may remember, is when the large-scale development really began to occur in the eastern part of the city. And during that time, Chula Vista actually expanded its boundaries to include the large ranch lands east of 805 that we know today as the Otay Ranch. So this created significant opportunities for the city to work with developers to plan and develop some large, high-quality master plan communities. But with that also came some serious concerns that poorly managed growth could really strain the city's ability to provide public services, could worsen traffic problems, and just lead to an overall reduction in the quality of life for Chula Vista residents. So the city appointed an ad hoc committee to develop quality of life threshold standards. And the concept was that these performance standards would reflect either current or desired levels of service, and then measure the effects of growth against those standards each year. And in '87, the committee came up with 11 topics in a document they called the Threshold Standards and Growth Management Oversight Commission Policy. In 1988, there was actually a voter initiative called Controlled Residential Development that further emphasized and required the city to have documents in place that would assure the timely construction of public facilities. And in 1990, there were two important elements added to the general plan: the growth management element and the public facilities and services element. And then in 1991, all these thresholds were actually codified into the growth management ordinance. And we created an ordinance for the commission that the commission's governed by. And all these documents are what we call the growth management program. So next slide. So this was first discussed in 1987. And since that time, there's been a lot of other documents and programs and policies that have been put into place that really ensure that infrastructure and services are maintained. Those include facility master plans. So we have a park master plan, library master plan, wastewater drainage. So the city develops these overall plans. So as growth occurs, they know where they want to build libraries and fire stations and so on. We have a very robust development impact fee program that our group manages, where the developers all pay fees to mitigate their impacts, mitigate their impacts to public facilities. So that's how we get a lot of our parks and streets and fire stations built, is through those fees. We also have community facilities districts, which is another way that public facilities are funded. We require developers of the big projects to draft public facilities financing plans, which detail all the infrastructure requirements for a project and how the facilities will be phased, along with how the development will be built and also how they're going to be funded. We require fiscal impact analyses that estimates the impact of a particular development on the revenues and expenditures of the city. And then we have development agreements, which is a contract with a developer that specifies what facilities they will be building and in what time frame, to ensure that those are constructed concurrently with the need. Then, of course, we have environmental review, and I've highlighted this as that's an area of interest for you all. Of course, we have CEQA, which was enacted in 1970. So the CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act, has been updated over the years and become more, an increasingly better tool to evaluate the environmental impacts of development. And then there are two documents that are actual appendices to the growth management implementation plan, which is the air quality improvement plan and water conservation plans that we require develop the larger projects to submit with their plans. So through these documents and requirements, the quality of life in Chula Vista has generally been maintained or improved. Certainly subject to debate, but I think in general people will agree that growth has been generally well managed in Chula Vista. Next. So 34 years later, here we are in 2021, and we are in a statewide housing crisis. The city has very specific housing goals it must meet, and we have housing regulations that have come down from the state that actually preclude the city from stopping development by enacting moratoriums. So building moratoriums, which was a tool of the growth management ordinance, are not allowed any longer by state law. And as I mentioned in the next slide, we now have numerous policies, programs that require development to ensure public facilities and maintain a quality of life and not erode public services. So things have changed a lot in 34 years, and the city is nearing build out. So this has really caused the city council to ask us to really reevaluate this whole program and determine, are these thresholds still relevant, and maybe what should we be looking at differently. Next slide. So Kim and I embarked on this comprehensive review program with the Growth Management Oversight Commissions. And what we are looking at now, instead of just the impacts of growth, is what does it look like to have a good quality of life for all residents? And so we've been looking at each of the topics and the threshold within each topic for their relevance and effectiveness. So what we've done is we've had subject matter experts all present to the GMOC. We've had the fire chief, police chief, the Healthy Chula Vista folks, a lot of our city engineers to talk about facilities. So we've had a really great education by getting information from all those departments. And now we are at the point where we're coming to the commissions to get your input, and have also talked to some other agencies as well. So once we've met with all the commissions, Kim and I keep refining the topics and talking to staff about potential indicators. And we probably in June are going to present to the GMOC a recommendation for new topics and indicators, and then they will deliberate and will come up with a final list. And one of the things we're working on also is how this will all be presented and communicated. And next, let's go to the next slide. So these are the 11 topics that are in place now. And so we have police as a separate topic, and fire. And those are all measured right now based on response time. So how fast do the police get there? How fast does the fire department get to a fire? And what we feel is that really a good indicator of how safe a city is what can we look at that's just a better way to evaluate the city's safety. Libraries and parks are both, those thresholds are based on square footage or acres per person or per 1,000 people. And is that really a good measure of, are we being served well by our libraries and parks? And then we have some infrastructure ones, sewer, drainage, traffic. We look at level of service. The fiscal is, how well the city's doing fiscally. And then the one that we want your input on is, it was been previously called air quality and climate protection. Then we look at schools and their ability to house the students that are coming into the new development, and then water, whether there's sufficient, water available to serve the new community. So to date, all these thresholds and there have been based on new developments impact on these services and facilities. So I'd like to just have Kim Vanderby, who has managed this whole program for several years, explain the process that we go through every year to create this report for the Growth Management Commission, and then specifically what the air quality and climate protection thresholds are. Kim?
Thank you. Yeah. So what we do every fall, or what we have been doing every fall, is sending questionnaires to the department heads or representatives for each of the topics shown on the screen. For air quality and climate protection, we send out this questionnaire, usually to Corey, Colleen, their group, and then also a representative from Development Services to complete the questionnaire. And I'd like to attempt to share, pushing the share button, but it's not working. So I'll just read to you what the current threshold standard is for air quality and climate protection. And it says that the city shall pursue a greenhouse gas emissions reduction target consistent with appropriate city climate change and energy efficiency regulations in effect at the time of project application for spot plans, or for projects that have the equivalent of 50 residential 50 residential dwelling units, commercial projects of 12 or more acres or equivalent square footage, industrial projects of 24 or more acres, and mixed use projects of 50 equivalent dwelling units or greater. So every fall we get great feedback from the Conservation Department on questions pertaining to that threshold standard. And we also send a questionnaire to the San Diego Air Pollution Control District, asking them for smog trends. They provide us with the number of days over the ozone standard for both the San Diego region and Chula Vista. And they also provide, so they do it on a 1 hour state average ozone standard and also an 8 hour federal average ozone standard. When we get those questionnaires completed from the Conservation Department, we include the information provided in our annual report that goes to the City Council and the Planning Commission in January. And sometimes there may be a recommendation by the GMOC pertaining to this topic. More often than not, there is not a recommendation because the department is doing such a great job. So prior to 2015, this threshold standard was just called air quality, not air quality and climate protection. And when we did this comprehensive review 5+ years ago, we included climate protection to keep up with a lot of this stuff that the Conservation Department is doing these days. So in a nutshell, that's essentially the communication that it has been existing between the city's Conservation Department and the Growth Management Oversight Commission.
Great, thank you, Kim. So those are the existing topics, and next I'd like to go to the next slide, and we'll talk about the new topics that we've come up with. So as you saw, there was just fire and police were the two public safety topics, but we now would like to add in emergency medical services, emergency preparedness, and also, you know, we have an animal shelter and we'd like to add in some thoughts on the animal care facilities. We have previously did not have a housing topic, and that's so important. We think for overall quality of life in a city is, are we providing affordable housing? Are we complying with the state goals annually for housing creation? Homelessness, how many homeless people do we have in our city, and are they being served? And just general housing construction, numbers of building permits per year, and so on. Transportation, the previous topic was called just traffic, and we measured traffic efficiency by level of service. We are looking at vehicle miles traveled now, which is we're required to do that under CEQA now, but it's not a real easy thing to measure. So we think it's still important to look at traffic efficiency through level of service. Traffic safety is something we'd like to look at, and we're going to go to the Safety Commission. And then active transportation as well. You know, how many bike lanes, other modes of transportation are we providing? Next. Then we've come up with a new topic called connected communities. Instead of having a separate parks, libraries, I think we had schools. We'd like to look at this more holistically, and we haven't come up with metrics yet for this, but we'd like to look at all these things, education, how many students are graduating from high school, and what type of arts programs are being provided. And libraries are no longer just stacks of books. Our particular library system is doing an incredible job serving the community. So just to measure how many square feet we have every year isn't a good indicator of what the libraries are doing for the city. Economic development is also a new topic, and we think it's important to look at job creation, unemployment rates, vacancy rates from the different types of land uses, office, retail, industrial, because that's a good indication of the economic health of the city. And also inclusive economic development is a big focus of our economic development department now. And so instead of air quality, we'd like to do a much broader topic, and we're calling it sustainability. And we want to look at air quality, energy, greenhouse gas, water conservation, and transportation modes. And we'll get into detail on that in a couple slides here. Next. We also would like to look at the fiscal health of the city and look at annual sales revenue, the amount of grant funding the city gets per capita from state and the feds, what our reserve funds look like, what does our pension funding look like, and the revenue we're getting from transient occupancy tax. We thought health and wellness was a really important topic when you look at overall quality of life in the city of Chula Vista. So we'd like to look at access to healthcare, food insecurity issues, and healthy aging is something that Chula Vista has been really focused on and doing a good job on that. Then the last one would be infrastructure maintenance. Do we have the sewer capacity and water supply that we need? Next. So we spent some time with Corey and Colleen, and we've come up with these suggested indicators. And instead of having thresholds where you either meet it or you don't, for example, libraries has failed for many, many years because there hasn't been any new libraries built. So that topic fails each year because it doesn't meet the square footage requirements. But that is not a great indicator of how good a job the libraries are doing. So just think in your mind that what we're trying to do is look at things we can measure annually, and it may not be a pass or fail, but we might be looking at, just trends. Are we using more solar? Are we sending less waste to the trash facilities? So for air quality, as we mentioned before, there's AQIP, Air Quality Improvement Plan, that's currently attached to the Growth Management Implementation Plan. And we just don't think that's necessarily the right place for it. We will not get rid of it, but we're proposing to shift that requirement or that the requirements of that document to something new, like a CEQA guidelines document, because that is a CEQA issue that the projects must comply with. And as Kim said, we still want to look at percentage of days that the air quality is rated as unhealthy for sensitive populations. We think, annually it'd be very interesting to see, how we are doing with that. And some of these things the city has control over, and some of them they don't. Energy, which percentage of renewable electricity are we using? That would come from SDG&E, and then the new community, I forgot the name of it, you guys will help me with that, the new energy provider. How many solar permits are being issued annually? What are the number of energy storage permits that are issued annually? And then in a greenhouse gas, what's the per capita GHG inventory, which I believe you do every 2 years, possibly. What's the solid waste per capita and the diversion rate? What are the number of trees that the city plants annually? What are the number of days that the city operates those cooling zones for extreme heat? Next slide. Under water conservation, again, that water conservation plan that the developers are required to do with their projects, we'd like to shift that to another area, possibly a CEQA guidelines document. But we'd like to still look at, you know, the annual gallons of water per day per capita, and then the gallons of reclaimed water used per day per capita. So hopefully we're seeing less potable water being used and less reclaimed, and more reclaimed water being used per person. And we definitely noticed a difference with the, you know, Eastern Chula Vista, where there's newer development and more efficient, you know, the new housing is required to have more efficient infrastructure and faucets and so on, that we do see a lower use on the eastern side just because of the age of housing. Transportation modes, we'd like to look at the number of EV charging stations that are added annually, or what the annual total is. The miles of bike lanes that are improved annually. We want to, I know that the engineering department has that as a focus, and we'd like to track that and hopefully see that increase. And then how many people are actually using public transit? And as Corey's explained, SANDAG does track that, and so those are numbers that we can look at year over year. So these 2 pages, page 1 and this is page 2, are what we'd really like your input on. We, you know, spent time with staff. We want things that are measurable and meaningful, and you know, that it has to be data that the city can actually get, not necessarily generate on our own, but that we can get from other agencies, or, you know, other groups. Next slide. So now I'd like to open it up for questions, and then we can go back to those 2 slides for sustainability and get your input.
First of all, I want to just, Chair Mathias, I want to first thank you both for presenting. This is wonderful information, and I've taken a lot of notes, and you guys answered some of my questions. First of all, I would like to bring up about the animal shelter. We absolutely need another one somewhere on the east side. We've had COVID. Well, first of all, ours, we only have one, and it's grown to the capacity of its site. That's it. It needs to get much bigger, or another location, preferably another location. With COVID, end of COVID is near. We're keeping our fingers crossed that we're going to unfortunately see a lot of people going back to work, and their animals will be going back to the shelter. There was a big, huge, as you guys know, during COVID, everyone went out and collected or adopted animals, not collected, rescued and adopted animals. And unfortunately, they're going to get hit very soon with the reality that they can't take care of them when they're at work. So definitely, I don't know how this was missed before, why we don't have another shelter. That should have been done a long time ago. So without a doubt, please put that in. And I know I saw you guys have that already on there, but that's definite for me. Couple more things is about the charging stations. I know you guys had mentioned, and I know there needs to be an incentive for people to help our air quality and use renewable sources, and therefore we need to have public charging stations all over Chula Vista. There's opportunities for solar now. I know there's incentives out there. We need to tap into that for solar charging stations, and those absolutely have to be part of Chula Vista's next few years to meet our goals for 2030 and our cap. Let's see, what else is there? Also, I know you mentioned about the energy storage permits annually. Is there some kind of, these are things that we could add for incentives for people to add this into their home, battery operation or battery powered for the solar would be great, to someplace to store. And so I know you guys are checking out all the permits, but there also needs to be some backing behind everything, meaning like incentives to get the public involved. And I think with the public really getting involved, health and what you called it, health and human
Wellness.
well, health and wellness, yes. How about using some of the open space too to bring in some community gardens? When you bring in community gardens, you bring in the health and the wellness, also urban farming, encourage that. Maybe, and there's grants out there for that, for sure. And I know when all that comes around and people start getting out, starting to farm, composting, our air quality is going to get better too, because all of those green is going to pull in all that carbon. So there's a lot of ways that we could go with this and how we can encourage, and it's getting into the community and really working with the communities to be a part of this. But I love what you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions and also suggestions. Basically, you have under sustainability the EV chargers, but you don't mention it under transportation. So it seems like EV chargers should be in both places. Also, you mentioned affordability of housing. Are you talking about prices or rentals or both? The affordability is got many factors to it. If you're going to consider affordability, are you going to include rent control issues or things like that in addition to pricing for houses? What does affordability mean, and what is the city going to do about it in terms of a plan? So that's a couple of questions for that. You also, under connected city, there was no mention of broadband. It seems like connected city by definition should have something to say about broadband in it. So that needs to be added in that area as well. Under your water conservation, there's no mention of landscaping, trying to replace water tolerant plants for some of the stuff that's out there, both on city landscaping as well as encouraging that to be done by the citizens. So landscaping needs to be on your list. And also in transportation, again, one of the key things it seems like for reducing air quality problems is making sure that you have good syncing of the intersections. I think, as far as I know, the plan that was recently adopted only talks about some 20 intersections as priority for doing some synchronization and that kind of, and smart intersections. That needs to be much broader if you're actually going to achieve much in the city of Chula Vista. There are thousands of intersections, or at least 1,000 intersections that probably need to all be addressed. And that should be under transportation. It also crosses over to air quality. I guess, and the final question I have is, what does inclusive economic development mean? What can you define it?
Thank you. Those are all great questions. Inclusive economic development, the way it's been explained by the economic development director is they want all citizens to prosper, not just people in a certain, socioeconomic level, right? So some of the things, a lot of these crossovers. So one of the things, the whole idea of broadband, that might go under inclusive economic development, where you're working to get everyone to be able to, participate, have access to the internet, and so on. So we don't have specific metrics yet but I know that's something that Economic Development Department is focused on. So an idea.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It's still pretty elusive as to what inclusive
Yes.
economic means. It seems like this historically has been new construction oriented, at least building out the city. That's what you presented as origin to this. It seems like at this point, broadening it back into the older part of Chula Vista and what's going to be done there is hopefully that's what inclusive means, but I don't know that that's what that means. Such things as Chair Mathias said, of some incentives by the city for retrofitting to solar on some of the housing in the east and the western Chula Vista that can't afford it. A broadband in some portions where it's unaffordable. My question about rentals, even trailer parks, what's going to be done with some of those things to make the quality of life beneficial to everybody, regardless of whether they're rich in the east or they're living in the what we now have is this impact situation where the climate impact is more adversely affected by others, and that needs to be synchronized with this as well. If we're going to actually use that index for something, it needs to be reflected in the plans as to what's going to be done with it. So that's still not clear to me what inclusive means. I like the direction, it sounds good, but without substance behind it, it doesn't really help much.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
On your question about affordability and just in general for the entire commission, the purpose of this isn't to set policy. So you have the council and probably the housing commission advising and setting policy on affordable housing. So that's not the job of this exercise. The job of this exercise is to measure how well we're doing. And so in terms of affordability, there's very specific requirements by the state to meet different ranges of affordability. And the housing department, housing group in DSD does an annual report for the state. So we're going to be looking at that data that they provide and sharing it more publicly, so citizens can see how we're doing in terms of meeting the policy goals that the council and housing commission have already set. So whatever those goals and those metrics are. Syncing the intersections is a very interesting one. We'll go back and talk to the engineering department about that. Maybe we can measure each year how many more they're working on synchronizing. And then the landscape, drought tolerant landscaping, I'd like to look at that more. Go into that a little deeper and see if there's a way to track, how many people are converting to drought tolerant landscaping. So EV charging stations, you mentioned that should go under transportation. Yes, in fact, we had that under there and just recently moved it to sustainability. As we were talking to Corey, a lot of these can go under, different topics. So I think the whole idea of the EV charging stations to measure, like, as the chairman said, is the city providing, are we getting more EV charging stations, whether they're provided by the developers as a requirement in their community, in the master plan communities, or is this in the city in public spaces? And I do know that that's a priority of the city manager because she's asked us to look into that some. So
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Sorry, I was on mute. If I could just address the chair's comment about the need for another animal shelter. Kim Elliott and I met with Mandy Mills, the director of our current facility. And she explained to us that the direction of the animal shelter is changing. It's not how many animals can we bring into the shelter, but how many can we try to help citizens keep? So they have a goal of zero euthanasia. A percentage is adopted by citizens. A percentage is transferred to other facilities. A percentage is reunited with their owners. And then some inevitably are sick and have to be euthanized when they arrive at the facility. But it might be beneficial for you to perhaps invite Mandy to come to your commission also to give more insight on that, because I found it very eye-opening. I didn't realize that there is a shift in the goals of facilities like the one that we currently have, and that the need for another building is not the direction they seem to be going at this time.
Right, thank you, Kim.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Yes, I'll look into that and I'll give Mandy a call.
Okay.
And Corey, did you have any comments on maybe go to the page 1 and 2, the metrics? It's
Yeah, I thought it was really good feedback from the commissioners. I would echo Kimberly's comment about trying to find a data for some of the landscaping conversions. Really, I believe they're only required permits, or it's a part of the new construction permit, but for most of the retrofits, I think they're just done by individuals, and so I don't know if we'd be able to kind of institute a study or something. I know I'd be interested in that, and that actually, as I'm thinking, that the water districts might have some visibility into that because it's so tied to their business model. But overall, like I said, I think these are really good feedback. So thank you, commissioners.
Okay, are there any other comments?
I'm interrupting now because I've raised my hand 3 times and
Oh, I can't even see you.
I
Oh, there
know.
you are.
That's why I'm not sure if, and then next is Commissioner Bosch. She has raised her hand. I'm not sure if all of the commissioners are showing up on the same screen.
They are now.
They are now.
Now they are. And because this platform is subpar and not like Zoom, where we cannot raise a hand feature, then I just decided to interrupt. So forgive me. I beg your forgiveness, and offer my apologies. So I offer commendations to begin my comments to 2 people. First, to the chair, because I truly believe that, and I hadn't even thought about this, and it's nothing short of genius, the sustainability of course, our animal brothers and sisters. I think that we should look at that much more deeply. I'm ashamed to admit that I had not thought about that until you had mentioned it. And it is excruciatingly important, as well as the issue of community gardens. Next, I offer commendations, of course, to Kimberly and Kim, or K squared. I really appreciated your presentation, but you activated a lot of my PTSD because the project that you've bitten off is nothing short the size of a dissertation. There have been dissertations in community psychology. I'm getting feedback, so whoever has their mic on, please mute it. If there have been dissertations written on this topic, models, in fact, and I'm familiar with some of them, which now I'll delve into some of the feedback. I was disappointed that I did not hear mention of psychological well-being, especially in the area of health. The dimensions that you had mentioned, I think, were community resource dimensions overall, but health and well-being is in and of itself is a complicated phenomenon, and I really hope that, actually, and more than hope, I indeed will follow up on this. I expect to see that that'll be fleshed out, because a psychological well-being of our community is so intimately connected to our physical health, and I think that we should look into that a little further. And then I'd like to see us ground our thoughts on this conversation with something in the literature, in the scientific literature. I mean, most cliche now at this point, although it was very, very groundbreaking at the time, of course, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What we're talking about is an issue of community needs. And Maslow's hierarchy of needs is important because it helps ground this conversation into the ecological structure for which it is truly deserving. You present this to the Sustainability Commission, and really this topic is so important. I don't know if many of us have the credentials or qualifications to speak into a lot of it, because much of the great feedback that we'll give you is largely dependent upon the work of the other commissions and the council. There's an ecology to this. We are all interconnected, the commissions, that is. And so we can give you feedback to all these pieces, but I kept noticing time and time again, as I kept getting closer to the screen, because my eyes are tired and I don't have a physical copy of this presentation and this program. What are we on? What's this program called? I forget, but it doesn't allow me to zoom in. I can't zoom into what I was seeing. So
Cisco WebEx.
Cisco. So forgive me when I get close to the screen. It's not because I was scowling. It was because I was trying to see the words. That said, Maslow's hierarchy will help us all understand how this is connected to the Planning Commission, right? We have a Commission on Aging, do we not?
We do.
Okay, right? How can we not see how that's connected to issues of sustainability? We would be remiss, and this entire conversation is worthless if we do not engage conversation on a broader, more deep level. Next, before I go into the final comment, which is about some of the dimensions, I'd like to make some methodological notes, as I typically do. And sorry, Corey, I'll keep it short this time. There's an issue versus measurement and understanding. I don't know what our obsession is about. We must measure this quantitatively. How about the qualitative component, right? Instead of trying to develop a ruler for some things, which many things indeed do need a ruler, if there hasn't been a ruler, why can't we try and unpack the phenomenology of whatever it is? Why can't we unpack the experience itself through its lived voices? You had mentioned some of those things. For instance, you had mentioned, to give you one quick example, only one, using public transit is really the measure of souls on a bus the most valid indicator or predictor thereof of whether or not we've begun to meet that, the success in that sort of endeavor? I think not. So we have issues of internal and external validity, but that's a different topic, and I'd be delighted to converse with you on a different day. Dimensions of community well-being. Of course, we have social dimensions, which I didn't hear that much of. Some I did. This is much greater project than, do we check all the resource boxes? Not thinking about this strongly enough. Economic, you did touch on that a little bit. Environmental, well, that's why you're here, although it's all connected. And I didn't really see, among these dimensions that I kept writing down as I was listening, I didn't see a clear connection between them. It seemed like this was just sort of a free-for-all, a thought experiment, and a sort of thinking exposition. The physical pieces, that gets into those resources. What about political? You mentioned some of the health, some of it. What about attachment? attachment is another social piece, but it's a standalone. And by the way, these pieces, because I'm very familiar with models of community well-being, both sustainability and otherwise, because they're so abundant in the literature. Attachment has to do with the extent to which folks within various districts and communities actually feel a sense of belonging. It's very easily measurable. And then I don't want to get too much into this piece, but you have community resilience. Well, all this is fine and grand, but unless we see whether or not we are linking these pieces, or most importantly, we have the resources, but are they being used effectively? And to what extent? And is there a measurable follow-up, right? This is where I think this, we have a planning commission, correct?
Correct.
So this would be a planning commission issue. Are we following up in order to measure these indicators over time? And what are we doing with that data in order to close the loop? So I've just given a ton of my overview of my thinking about this, but there's so much work to be done here. And I think that, again, I think it's so important. I'm so impressed and thankful to have heard this conversation, and thankful in advance for your advancement of these efforts. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, Ba, you had some. I don't see her anymore, but
Here I am.
okay.
Okay. Yeah, I had some thoughts. It was great to hear about this. I am working along with Angelica on the emergency, I'm not going to think of the word, emergency climate change declaration. So there's a lot of overlap because you're looking at these indices, is that the right word? And we're citing a lot of these same areas as being places that we need to work. We need to put focus, so we can almost line up some of the elements. But anyway, so some of the things I'm seeing is that you don't make a reference to climate change preparation. And yet I think that's critical, that we are making plans to meet the expected changes, heat, water, ocean water elevation change, etc. I don't have a great metric for that one, but maybe I'll think of one. But I also wanted to talk about a little bit more about water conservation and stormwater. I didn't see any reference to stormwater.
Very good.
Yeah, and so stormwater the simplest metric that I thought of would be stormwater citations, because the more citations, the worse we're doing. But there's also stormwater capture, which is a way of avoiding having these issues. And I don't have a great measure for that because there's a lot of localized individual programs where people are capturing water in their landscape in very simple landscape techniques that are not requiring grading. But that ties into native plants and drought water or drought landscaping. Two thoughts on measuring that would be A, as long as the Southern Metropolitan Water District is offering rebates to people to change out their landscape, there's a metric to see how many people in the city of Chula Vista are taking advantage of that program. And that program requires that you change out your plants, upgrade your irrigation, and have some sort of stormwater capture. There might be a metric for rain barrels. Rain barrels are part of that Metropolitan Water District rebate, so that's just an idea. Use of compost and mulch is something that could perhaps be measured by, again, that rebate requires compost and mulch, but also by the collection of composts coming from our local facilities, the quarterly program that we have, something like that. If that got bigger or more people were involved in it, that would be somewhat measurable. The other thing would be to look at a comparison of winter water use to summer water use, assuming the summer water use increase is because of landscape. And so if that number keeps coming down, we are achieving something. And hopefully it's a low water use landscape, not a just to turn the water off, dead landscape. So, yeah, so I think, yeah, but I had one more thing. No, that's it, I guess, other than I think there's a parallel and maybe we should be working with you in terms of categories for the climate change, the emergency climate change declaration. Oh, this is, you probably are way past this, but my thought came to this. You know, there's a lot of online sites where they tell you the best place to live, and they list, or some of them will tell you how they measure the qualities. And so I'm wondering if you've ever looked at those to see if they have come up with a quality that you're not looking at. And, you know, some of the major magazines will do it too. So a little bit more thorough there.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Ba and Corgan. Really appreciate it. There's one more thing that you guys made me think about while you were talking. The watershed and how the impact on the trash in our environment and cleanups, and we can measure that by the weight that we take away when the communities do cleanups and things like that. So, and now that we have more community, more members in our community, that should be something that should be measured too. Is anyone else? Any other comments? No. Okay. So thank you too very much. Let's go with, does staff have any comments they'd like to make before the public comment?
I do not.
Okay. So I will go ahead and call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit final comments to on the item. Before deliberation, commissioners, please remember to refresh your screen where the latest comments are heard. Okay, our time is up and commenting period is now closed, and I did not see any comments. Am I correct with that?
Correct. There was no comments received or emailed during this time.
Okay. I do have one other question. I know this is the Growth Management Committee. Is there actually a committee?
There's an actual commission.
A commission?
Yeah.
Okay. So is that something that we could ask one of our commissioners to, if they have the time, if they want to participate?
You can certainly attend. It's a commission just like yours. And we're likely to change the name of it since we're getting rid of this whole kind of growth management spin, if you will. Sure. They're open to the public just like your commissions.
Okay.
Commission meetings are.
Okay. Commissioners, you hear that? Sorry.
So we've worked with them from like last June, I think we started through the beginning of February. Then we went dark, or they went dark, and Kim and I have just been working on going deeper on all the topics and metrics. And then, and now through April and May, we're going to all the commissions and getting your all, you know.
So when will be your next meeting as a commission?
Probably May, or no, what did we say, Kim? I think June. April and May, we're going to go to the other commissions, and I'm hoping June, but it'll be on the city's website. They usually meet the first and third Thursday. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, commissioners, you know what to do now. Okay, thank you so much, Kim. The Kim Squares.
Yes.
I appreciate your giving us this wonderful feedback that we were able to participate in.
Well, we really appreciate your expertise, and we will look at all our notes and go forward to the commission with recommendations.
Okay, thank you so much. Are there any other commissioner comments? Nope. Okay. So let's go on to our next. Thank you. And it's our annual, next on the agenda is 6.1 under action items, sustainability awards voting. Does staff have a presentation?
Yes, I have one slide, but before we jump to the slide, I wanted to thank all the commissioners for taking the time to, in some cases, both nominate and also vote on the winners for this year. As you're aware, these are our annual awards hosted by this commission. And we weren't really sure how many nominations we'd get this year, given it was kind of an interesting year. We actually got nominations in every category, which was exciting. So I'm going to show you the tally of what we've received. Let me share my screen real quick. You guys can review and then kind of figure out what you want to do. We make that full screen. Okay, so we have 7 categories. In the resident category, Rita Clement had 5 votes. For business, we had Devin Bailey from Standard True Value had 4 votes. City employee was Stacy Kurtz with 4 votes. Organization, we probably should say South Bay Sustainable Communities Network, with the contact being Tina Matthias for 5 votes. And we did make that optional vote, so it wasn't awkward for you, hopefully, to abstain on that one.
I did.
Yep, I knew you would figure it out. For educator, we had Oscar Romo with 4 votes. Community contributor Ruth Arnett at 4 votes, and then we had a tie in the student category for Serena Ingram and Kevin James Marshall, each with 3 votes. We did not get all 7 commissioners voting, so that's why we have a tie. At any rate, this is how it turned out. So at this point, I think you guys can figure out what you might want to do as a next step. If you want to keep the tie in the student category, we've had ties before, and I think it's fine if that's something you guys want to do. And then once you vote on this, just to let you know, next steps on my end would be to reach out to all these folks tomorrow. Ask for a couple of photos so that I can put together a very brief presentation at City Council, which is next Tuesday. It's right around the corner on the 20th. It will just be a very short presentation at the beginning of the council meeting, just virtual, just kind of like this meeting is. And then later will be, I'll meet folks at City Hall to do socially distance outside award pickups, which is what we did last year as well. So I'm passing it over to you.
Okay. So does, any comments? Anyone, any of the chair?
I only have a comment regarding the student piece. I do not think that there should be a tie. I think that we can revisit and remind ourselves and better come to know the descriptions and then make a decision accordingly. I don't think that there should be a tie.
Okay, noted. Anyone else have any comments? Yes, Bob?
Could we encourage the seventh person to cast their ballot and then we wouldn't have a tie?
I reached out twice, no reply. So given that this is going to council next Tuesday, I don't know that we have time for that.
Yeah, fair enough. You got to get onto this right now. So I kind of was fine with having two students because I thought they were both great. They're not going to be told that they're tied, are they? They're just going to be recognized as two student contributors, or is there some way? I forget. Was one a college age student? One is a high school.
There's two different ages. Yes, one's a high school youth, and then the other one's a young adult student.
Could we have maybe a 2-minute recess to revisit that so we can discuss right now? Or because it's recorded, maybe we shouldn't be doing that. I'm not sure.
I think technically that's okay. I mean, this is when you guys vote and discuss, so I think that's okay if that's what you guys would like to do.
Just a 2-minute recess?
Well, this is Monica, the secretary. So if you want to take a recess, it's just for you to review individually. You can't discuss it.
That's exactly what I meant. That's exactly.
Okay.
Okay, so we're taking a 2-minute recess.
If that's what you want to call as a chair, a 2-minute recess to review individually and then come back and discuss it, that's up to you.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay.
And then just double checking that you all still have that link, you know where to find it in your email. Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
Let's take a create another thing.
It should be about 2 minutes right now. You guys good to go? You want to discuss it a little more? Okay, so my thought is I think that I like the idea of having both of them, only because they're different ages. Because it's inspiring to see that both age groups are taking action in helping to for climate awareness and helping to better their future and better their communities. Both of them are. So I'm perfectly fine with having both of them win an award. Yes, Gordon?
I retract my earlier statements after a refresh and review. Indeed, these two students are not even remotely comparable. They're both wonderful. They're both doing good things. I did have a problem with the fact that even the quality of the writing for recommendation differs between student 1 and student 2, which gives student 2, of course, the advantage because the writing is just better. It's an unconscious process. And also, naturally, you would expect a student at the college level to be doing quote unquote more important things, whatever that means. But on the other hand, I do appreciate the fact that the younger student has indicated a record of behaviors for sustainability, consistent with the charges of this commission. They both had indicated an education of others. What does that mean? I mean, I talk to my cat, but I'm not giving her an education. I think that the descriptions are insufficient across the board and require much more detail. But regardless of my own idiosyncrasies, both are commendable and both should be recognized.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have a comment? Okay.
I'll move adoption of the results with both youth being recognized as a part of the process.
Okay, excellent. So I guess we're going forward. Does staff have any comments they'd like to make before we go to public comment and deliberation?
Do we have a second for a motion, or is that am I?
Oh, we're not
premature?
motioning yet. We have to do the 2
Okay.
minutes.
Okay.
No staff comment? Okay, then I'll go ahead and call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on this item of this annual Sustainability Awards voting.
I just made a comment to test to see if the thing is working, and it kind of came out, but I did get a message from someone that they were having trouble submitting comments earlier.
Okay.
But I just put test comment and it worked. I don't know if you guys saw it.
Nope, haven't looked that way yet.
I've heard from other people in the past that have said that they've struggled with the e-comment system.
I see Commissioner Legaspi's comment.
I do too. Good job.
Is it possible for people to make comments from outside of the Chula Vista area?
That's a good question. I'd have to refer to staff.
Yes, it is. The system is open to the public.
Okay.
Side note: the recommended individuals for award, they have to be residents of Chula Vista, correct?
No, they don't have to be, they just need to be working in Chula Vista or participating in Chula Vista or being a part of Chula Vista in some aspect, not necessarily living in Chula Vista.
So involvement.
Yes, exactly. Okay, since I don't see any comments, do commissioners have any additional comments or questions? We were kind of talking there the whole time. Nope. Okay, is there a motion to approve the current? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I saw your hand this time. Yes, Corrigan, Commissioner Corrigan.
I apologize. I was just wondering, maybe at some point in the future we can discuss the commissioners' thoughts on whether or not nominations should be held exclusively for Chula Vistans.
I think that would be good, except, well, are we commenting about that now? I mean, we could discuss it now.
Yeah, we don't have to. I just wanted to make a note before it got lost in the
Okay, for
weeds.
next year. I think for next year would be great. Okay. So is there a motion to approve the online voting that we had thank you. And is there a second?
I'll
So,
second.
so I have a motion by Legaspi and a second by Richardson for the current wins on the Sustainability Champion. And congratulations, everyone, for winning and being sustainable and helping to educate about sustainability in your community. Let's see, the approval of the online voting and results passes. Okay, thank you guys. So let's go ahead and move on to our next other business.
I'm sorry, Chair Matthias.
Yes.
I need a call.
Oh, roll call, sorry.
I need a call vote by roll call.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I will now go ahead and request each member's vote by roll call. Commissioner Baugh,
I am approving the selections that we approved.
Yes.
Is that what I'm doing? Okay.
Yes.
Aye.
Commissioner Guevara Gluyas, absent. Commissioner Corrigan,
Aye.
Commissioner Legaspi,
Aye.
Commissioner Richardson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez, absent, and Chair Matthias.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So the approval of the online voting and final results pass unanimously. Okay, now on to other business, staff comments.
Hi, good afternoon. Actually, evening, sorry, we went on. So I'm here to give a couple of updates. First, as you see on the agenda, Republic Services, we are bringing Republic Services staff, or inviting Republic Services staff for the next commission meeting in May to give us an update of how the organics program will be rolling out in a glance at their marketing plan that they're developing for Chula Vista residents and businesses, and how it will help the city comply with the new organics waste law, and mainly with the marketing plan and outreach, which is I would say, the pretty big part of this new program. If people don't know that this is a new way to start separating and collecting waste, then it's not going to be as efficient. That's that part of my update. Second on the agenda is a CO Pro potential pilot project update. Just like to report to the commission that on March 23rd, we had a follow-up meeting with the CIO Pro team, which followed with some additional questions that were asked, and we are in fact, this morning we received some responses to some of those questions we had, so we are preparing additional responses to that group. And lastly, on my end, it's South Bay Earth Day at home, and sorry, was that?
She's sharing.
Oh, okay. So as you can see there on the agenda on the screen, I mean, please help us promote this great event. It's actually on Earth Day on Thursday, April 22nd, from 4 to 6. We have a great sessions there available. One of them being Ask a Recycler. We're going to have a live stream of how to have your home honeybee production. Really interesting. Zero waste living from somebody who lives out of the city, who lives in Hawaii, and we'll be presenting on what how they're living without producing so much waste. Also another live stream from backyard composting and several others. So please help us promote this through your own social networks. You can see there the registration link, chulavista.ca.gov at South Bay Earth Day. And hopefully you could join us that day. And that concludes my report.
Okay, great. I have a couple updates as well. They're not all listed there. We only kind of listed some of the larger items, but a couple quick announcements. You should have also received in your email a link to Sustainable Building Week, which is this week, hosted by the San Diego Green Building Council. So there's a list right there. There's 4 things happening tomorrow. I'll actually be speaking on a panel tomorrow morning with some other folks from other local agencies regarding advancing local and regional decarbonization strategies. I'll be talking a little bit about our recently approved benchmarking ordinance. So the link for this, for easy access and to register for those items, was in your agenda packet in the email. In addition, I wanted to give an update on the Climate Equity Index, an update from the last meeting. So staff have received and are reviewing the updated report from EPIC, addressing the comments from commissioners, and staff will incorporate these changes in the city created report, and we'll be sharing with the Climate Equity Index stakeholders in mid-April. And then we will bring it back to this commission in May with a memo overviewing the changes. So we'll be organized so that you can kind of see where we addressed various items. In addition, the 2 things from the clerk's office, you may have noticed that your agenda looks slightly different this time. Maybe it's a subtle change, but a little bit different than usual. The clerk's office is rolling out the way that they create and manage agendas and minutes, and they're changing the platform that they use to do this. So expect to see some minor tweaks over the coming weeks and months as they transition this in the spring. So don't be surprised if you see things looking slightly different from here on out. Also from the clerk's office, I think there may be some questions regarding some recent announcements from the governor about, what's opening and what's happening in the state. I'm going to stop sharing here because I think you guys probably have this now. Anyway, so there might be some questions about when we may be returning to in-person meetings, given that the governor made some announcements the other day about potentially things opening up in the next couple of months. I double checked again today with our clerk's office. Nothing changes as of now. We are still having virtual meetings, but they will definitely keep us posted as things evolve and as they make plans to resume whatever in-person things that they're going to do. So stay tuned for more, but nothing changes for now. Wanted to also give a very quick update on the climate emergency declaration that Commissioner Ball mentioned a few minutes ago. We met, Corey and I met with Commissioners Ball and Rodriguez. I think it was the very end of March. We've been chipping away at various local ordinance or declarations and seeing what they've noted. We're kind of pulling out and analyzing what we like and maybe don't like from some of those. We all have our homework to do, and we're supposed to be meeting again. Commissioner Rodriguez's schedule has changed drastically recently, so we are giving her a few days to figure out what is realistic as far as meeting our next meeting, and then we'll reconvene and figure out where we want to go from there. But we're all doing our homework on that one. And I think I have one more. And wait, I think I already mentioned that. That was the Sustainable Building Week. So let me just double check. I think I got them all. But let me know if you have any questions. And if not, I will pass it to Dennis.
Well, thank you, Colleen. Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. I did want to provide a quick update on the draft revisions for the municipal code section governing the Sustainability Commission. We are pleased to mention that we will have this on the agenda for your next meeting. The Commission has expressed a desire to increase the membership, so we will be bringing that forward for you to discuss and take action. I also did want to give updates on San Diego Green New Deal. The Commission took action to adopt a letter to City Council, and as part of that, there was also some direction for staff to continue working with them our conversations continue. We're pleased to share that we do have a meeting scheduled for Thursday with the chair of the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion group. So we're excited to have that conversation. Corey and myself will be providing an update. And we also at some point will be planning for them to also present before this commission on potential opportunity areas and ways that we can continue to work together. With regards to smart cities, had a wonderful conversation with Commissioner Richardson regarding smart cities. And one of the things that we discussed is it's been a while since I was before this commission to give an update on smart cities. So we will be working with the chair to get something on the agenda so that we can get not only the new commissioners, but also the current commissioners updated on some of the progress that we have made and some of the priorities that the city is looking at going forward. This summer, we will be giving a comprehensive progress update to City Council as well, specifically around some of the things that we're doing with data governance and all the other efforts related to that. Also, under Smart Cities, the Smart Cities Connect virtual conference. This is one of the largest Smart Cities conferences that's held every year. Just like everything else, this has now gone virtual. So it's going to be on April the 13th. That's tomorrow through the end of the week. I will be on a panel on City Spotlight to focus on community engagement policy, as well as inclusion and governance. I'll be on a panel with the Director of Inclusion for the City of Detroit, as well as a Smart Cities lead for the City of Portland, and the Smart Cities head for the City of San Antonio. So we're looking to have a really interesting conversation on what large cities as well as mid-sized cities are doing, especially in the age of COVID. A lot of folks are looking to us to share the process that we use to develop our digital equity and inclusion plan, as well as some of the things that we've been able to do in terms of being creative and innovative to look for ways to fund and move our initiatives forward. So with that, we're looking forward to upcoming days.
Thank you. Okay, so it's chair's comments, and I would also want to add to the Earth Day. We are actually working with several community members to create an Earth Week, whereas Earth Day is part of it too. So we will send out, I guess, Monica will send it to you or Yasmin, the actual link for the entire week's agendas so that you guys can have that and be passed on to all the commissioners. And then you guys can pass it on to friends and family. Okay, let's see. And as for the newsletter, thank you so much. The newsletter was very, I really enjoyed it. There was a lot of information in there, and I will actually be attaching that link to when I do send out my newsletter to all of our friends, family, and associates. Now, and you guys also mentioned about the drawdown and had a whole article on farming, and I think that was great. And also talked about Kiss the Ground, which is a movie that I think everyone should be watching right now. So I really appreciate that. And your wording of wish cycling, I think it was. That's perfect of the way you guys presented that. Let's see. So I know you guys I know the city staff has in regards to the composting materials has reports, and as a whole commission, I think that we would like to see what the nitrogen value, if there's any contaminants or the pathogens, the nutrient value of the lab reports from that. So good. Can someone provide that? Manuel, maybe you might be able to do that for the next meeting.
I'll inquire to see if those are available. I'll get back to the commission.
Okay, I'm curious. And the other thing I would like to do is to set up a date within the next month that we could all take a field trip out to see what's going on at Republic right now and to see the progress. I know you guys will be having them come and speak, but we would like to personally see what's going on. Can that be arranged?
Yes, again, I'll inquire and should be fine. I know there some of those field trips or demonstrations were stopped because of COVID, but I think it might be okay. I just wanted to go back to the previous comment. You wanted to, just on some of those data points, you wanted to find out about nitrogen values and what else?
Just the lab results from the compost that they are creating currently. And I know that doesn't completely have, that's not exactly what's going to be produced when the new system is coming out, you know, when the new system does come out. But I still would like to see what we've been passing out to the community as compost.
So it's just a clarification. It's on the compost that's been distributed or on what's being produced currently?
So do you guys, does Republic currently have compost currently being created with the new system?
Yes, but it's not fully what's going to be
Operational.
collected in Chula Vista. So we have vegetative food waste that's being processed, and that's does not include meat, fats, and just the quote traditional food waste. It just has, you know, like salad cut-ups and stuff like that, but nothing that includes the whole gamut. So at this point yet, I might be wrong. So I'd like to inquire with them as well.
Okay, so whatever you guys can present and give us some insight as to what we're seeing currently going into the system that is currently operating.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay. And I think that's it on my end. Does any other commissioners have comments? Okay. Legaspi, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Okay, well, just to give everybody an update that Tina, I, and Carolyn will be meeting with a representative from Supervisor Vargas's office. That'll be on the 23rd. And we just kind of want to see how we can work together. You know, she does represent the district here. I don't know if it's the whole district, but at least maybe I think it does. Is it all Chula Vista, Manuel? Okay.
Yes.
I mean, we want to just match up that we're mirroring what the county is, and the county as well is mirroring you know, all of our efforts. So that's coming up on the 23rd. And then at our next meeting, we will have a representative from Assemblywoman Gonzalez's office to go over Assembly Bill 881. That's the bill that's concerning plastics and recycling. She's the author of that. And then I just saw today there's another bill she's a co-author of. It's more hazmat related or hazardous facilities related, but it seems like she's really jumping on board when it comes to sustainability. So I think that'll be exciting to have a representative next week. I did see the clean newsletter, and just to touch on kind of what Tina was saying. I saw the link, and yes, you know, we want to promote the Otay landfills compost, and I saw the link in there, kind of like something in a sense where the action item is to kind of promote it with the farming community, and there's a link there to go to the I guess the Farm Bureau. So I think it would be critical and informative to us as commissioners if we're going to be promoting that material to be used in the food stream. We want to make sure that it's something that we can promote, something, you know, free from contamination, plastics, E. coli, you know, pathogens, things like that. Because if it is indeed a compost, we want to make sure it is a compost. You know, I've had people tell me that they picked up some of the free materials and it doesn't look like a compost material. And maybe that will change with the new facility you're talking about, Manuel. Because the comments that I get, it's more like not really a compost, but
Mulch.
Mulch. So, but there is big plans to improve on that. So that would be helpful for us to have that information. But that's pretty much it. And then you know, since we're gonna have at our next meeting, I would like to get some information on the plastics, on how we're doing, since we did put that surcharge on there. well of an improvement has been made, because that was the reason for that surcharge. And like to see, you know, if as far as monies or redemption going back to the city, if that has increased due to the extra work that they requested that they were going to have to be performing to make that material viable for recycling. And so it'd be nice to have a report, just so, you know, since we were involved with that decision, where we could say, hey, the number 1, 2, 3, or 4 is increased in value, or if it hasn't, where is it going? Is it being landfilled? And possibly if we can get a breakdown of all of the different waste codes, or not waste codes, but the recyclable codes on the plastics and the volume. So that would be kind of helpful for us. That's the only comments I have.
Thank you, Legaspi. Richardson, you had some comments?
Yeah, I had an item that this may take a few minutes. You have to kind of bear with me on it. Basically, at the end of our last meeting, or actually before the meeting, we had a lot of circulating emails about the Brown Act. And one of the things that kind of came out of that email circulations, if any of us had questions about the Brown Act, we were to submit them to the city attorney and the city clerk. So I did that. I had some clarification that I felt I needed to have. So I submitted it, and I wanted to share that with you. I asked permission from Silva, Mr. Silva, Deputy City, if it's okay to share that. He said yes. Also, the city clerk was involved in the email chain as well. So I just want to read the questions that I posed, the answers that I got, and then I have a suggestion at the end of this presentation I'm going to make. So basically, what I submitted was 3 items for clarification, which have come up on several occasions during these meetings. The first one was that I submitted. I said, staff has advised us that action items cannot be placed on special meeting agendas, only regular meeting agendas. And that came up a couple years ago with a special meeting we had, that we couldn't consider an item that was critical. So I questioned the city attorney, is that accurate? Clarify that for me. The second one, I said, staff advises that commissioners are prohibited from voting to place an item on a subsequent agenda for action relating to an information presentation on the current agenda. This has come up on several occasions where there's a desire to take an action because we do have a presentation and we've been told, no, you can't do that unless it's on the agenda to vote. You can't do it. At least that's what I understood. So I wanted clarification on that. And the third one, I said, for action items, staff advises that the only motion that can be made is to accept or reject the staff recommendation. A motion, for example, to forward a recommendation to the city council that differs from staff recommendation is not allowed. So I sent those 3 points of clarification to the city attorney and the city clerk and said, would you clarify this for me and also for the commission, because this has come up on several occasions, and I'd like to have a clear understanding about what the Brown Act does say. So what Deputy City Attorney Simon Silva responded on the first one, where he says that your question is whether there's a special meeting have agenda action items. His answer is yes. A special meeting may have action items on the agenda. There are no prohibitions in the Brown Act or Chula Vista Municipal Code. Remember that items placed on the agenda should be for the items that fall within the jurisdiction of the commission. So basically, he's only reminding us that you can have an action item on either type of agenda, as long as it meets what we refer to as our charter on the city council or the city code. For the second item, he says, which he restates as a question, may commissioners vote to place an item on a subsequent agenda for action relating to an information presentation on the current agenda? And his answer is yes. Commissioners may vote to place items on future agendas, and he cites the municipal code, section 225.210B, which provides, and it says, in quotes, in relevant part, items may be placed on the agenda by the chair, by majority of voted members, or by the city staff. And he goes on to support, that's a quote from government code. It says, however, the commission may not discuss the substance of the item they seek to place on future agenda. The substantive discussion can only be done on the subsequent meeting when the item is actually on the agenda. So again, in a case here where we're not prohibited from saying, I want to move to place an item on the next agenda for action related to something that's being discussed as an information item on the front. So he's saying we're entitled to do that under both the Chula Vista code as well as government code. On the last item, for action item, staff advise the only motion we can make is to accept or reject staff recommendation. And his response to that is, this is not a straight yes or no question. It depends on the wording used to describe the item on the agenda. The agenda must provide enough notice whether alternative action may be taken. Thus, if the item is described as only to approve or reject the item, but doesn't provide that an alternative action can be voted on, then you may only vote to approve or reject the item. Again, it's allowable action depends on the wording of the agenda, and he actually then says, I recommend is to remedy this going forward, the agenda title should provide for an action and on an alternative. You could also ask an alternative action be placed on the next agenda, then either regular or a special meeting for action. So basically, he's suggesting that we need to revisit the way the staff is presenting some of these items to us. And in the spirit of a recommendation or for the advice from the city attorney, I actually would move that we place this item on our next agenda, whether it's a special meeting agenda or a regular one, to address how these items are being presented to us on the agenda, so we can make sure that the authority that this commission has to take an action is not being somehow altered by the way the language is being put on the agenda itself. So I know it's kind of a long presentation. I'm going to send copies, by the way, to whoever on the staff you want me to send it to. I'll send copies of the correspondence. You have it in your records between Deputy Attorney Silva and myself and the clerk. So you can file that and make sure that any question, I guess, clarification you want to have, if I've read what he gave me, I've read what I presented to him. You may still want some other things, but I'll send it to whoever you want me to send it to. So that's my item, and frankly, I'm prepared to put a motion on the floor to have our agendas addressed at the next meeting, so we can resolve this remedy issue that was recommended by the city attorney.
Okay, no, thank you so much. That's great information. So you are creating an agenda, well, a motion for this next agenda, or for next month's agenda, correct? Okay, for next month's agenda to have this motion of, how would you say, what did you say exactly?
It's remedying the situation of restricting what we can vote or not vote on the items that are put on the agenda.
Okay, remedying the situation of what we can or cannot put on the agenda. Okay, so we could take a vote of it. Who would like to approve?
Is there a second? We can't vote.
Oh, you first. Okay, so is there a second for this motion? Is there a second motion on this? Okay, I guess me. Okay, so we are putting this Richardson's motion on about, gosh, my mind's gone. It's late.
Remedying the agenda as recommended by the city clerk, city attorney.
Thank you. Okay, and so Richardson first, and then Legaspi second that motion. Monica, would you mind calling roll?
Wait, Chair, is there any discussion from additional commissioners?
I would like discussion, point of clarification. Okay. So of the 3 points that Commissioner Richardson brought up, we're only voting on the third one, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm asking if the item be brought forward to discuss the agenda and the wording. Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Is the third one the fact that we're restricted in what action we can take by the recommendation from the staff, that's the one that I want addressed. The others seem to be pretty clear. City attorney saying we can act, the city charters of the city code says we can. We're not restricted on special meetings or regular meetings or on action. First two seem to be pretty clear. It's the third one that says you need to remedy this situation. And I'm asking that we remedy that situation.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, Corgan.
No question, just a comment. Because this is a matter of public record and concern, I just wanted to let, exclusively as a matter of public record, because it was noted by Commissioner Richardson that the commission received emails regarding the Brown Act. I would request very briefly, as a matter of public record, within a sentence, someone explain what the Brown Act is to the public, and then also at the same time, if said person could mention why the email was sent.
I'm sorry, you're referring to the email that I sent to the city attorney, or you're referring to the earlier emails that were circulated?
You had, yeah, the circulating emails. In other words, I want to make it clear to the public that there was no disciplinary action.
I think you're addressing that to staff, right? Are you asking what prompted those emails regarding the Brown Act before the last meeting?
Not necessarily. Could be the commission. At this point, I'll leave it up to the chair.
Okay.
But maybe I could address it a little bit, because I've asked for clarification. The Brown Act is what we are all bound by to make sure that we're not acting in a way that's obscure to the public. We are officials and representatives of the city of Chula Vista. And by that, we're bound by all the rules. That's the reason I raised the question about, well, we have the wrong date or the wrong time for this meeting. Should we need to make sure that the public's got a right to be involved in the decisions we make. That's what the Brown Act says. We have open meetings, we have to publish in a certain period of time. We have to take actions within the context of any agenda items. That's what the Brown Act is. We all actually have to be certified in this as members of the commission. So that's why I decided to get clarification, because I was uncertain as to whether or not some of the things that we were being told really were in the Brown Act and required. That's why I asked the question. You're muted.
Chair,
right?
you were muted.
Okay, so what you're saying here, John, is that the chairman and vice can, as we work on these agendas, can put items up for action, whether or not, in a sense, we can put it, I mean, those are action items that can go on there no matter if there's any due diligence in a sense. And then it would be up to staff to research if it's something that could be performed. But we could at least vote on it if we're making a recommendation on something. We don't have to wait for this due diligence process or a period of time, which I guess was a good example, was something that happened last year. Waited months and months and for it to get us to actually move on it, an item. So we could basically, in essence, put the item on the agenda and it's up to us to decide. And then I guess it would be up to staff to tell us after we vote on it, no, that's something you can't do, or you can legally, or the staff or legal department or the city attorney.
Let me reread the wording from the city attorney on that, okay? What he says is that the Chula Vista Municipal Code says in relevant part, items may be placed on the agenda by the chair, by a majority vote of the members, or by the city staff. And then he cites the government code, says, however, commission may not discuss the substance of the item they seek to place on future agenda. The substance discussion must be done at the future agenda when the item is when it's on the agenda. In other words, all we vote in is to put the item on the agenda. What happens after that, what the city staff wants to do, that's entirely up to the staff. All we're going to say is, we would like to put the following item on the agenda. We vote and say, yes, put it on the agenda. They have to put it on the agenda at that point. What they bring back to the staff at that subject meetings when the discussion takes place. That's what the city attorney said.
So that's putting it on the agenda, but not creating an action item.
No, the action item is what you put on the agenda. You ask for an action item to be placed on the agenda. You just can't simply discuss it at this particular meeting. You have to wait till the next meeting to discuss the content to take the action. All this is doing is saying, put this item on the agenda, period. That's all we can do.
Okay, so that's what he's saying, that's okay, but then the action part of it doesn't apply until the following.
You can't take
Because
the
we'll
action.
put it on the agenda depends upon if we're taking action or not. We could say we're putting something on the agenda, but if it's an action item, that's a different category. So
Yeah, the action item question is just where it's located on the agenda in the future. In the future, you have information items, you have member comments, and you have so-called action items. All we're doing is under the section called action items, we want this particular item to be showing up there for consideration by this commission. That's all we can do at this particular meeting is to request that this item be on the next meeting as an action item. Now, we're going to vote on it next time.
okay, so we'll be voting on it next time, but we're voting on it today to be part of an action item for next time.
We just put it on the agenda. That's
Okay.
it.
Oh, just
Yeah,
put it on the agenda as an action item.
And this discussion is kind of, reflecting why I asked for clarification, because it has come up on numerous occasions where you can't do this, you can't do that. What we can in fact do is vote to put an item on the agenda. There's nothing prohibiting us from saying, I want to move to put an item on the agenda for the next agenda. And we say yes or no. It's an up or down vote. And that's the end of the discussion in this meeting.
I'm so confused. If we're moving to put an action on the agenda so we can vote to put actions on the agenda, well, isn't the movement to put an action on the agenda by definition of itself what
It's
we
an
do?
action you can
I'm
take
so
without
confused.
having, and you're exemplifying the confusion over all this stuff and why it need to be clarified. Okay. The vote to put an item on the agenda. Right now, what happens is the city staff decides what's going to be on the agenda and how it's going to be worded. Okay. They consult with the chair.
And thank God, because I don't want to have to deal with all that. Do you?
If there's an action that we would like to take. Now, I'll give you an example of one thing. We had a presentation where a couple of us said, yeah, we'd like to get involved in this. We'd like to actually maybe have something to say about this. Okay. We were told we can't put this on the future agenda as an action because it's an information item and there's no action we can take. That's the nature of the discussion we had with the staff. And why I said, well, wait a minute. No, that basically says we get information item, that's all of it. We can't do anything more. We sit here and say, okay, here's nice information item, thanks for it. That's what we're limited to as a commission. And that didn't seem right to me. Okay, we should be able to say, we would like to bring this back as an item in the future, and we'd like to actually say something about this item. We don't want to sit here and bump on the log and say that's our role in this life. Okay.
But I hear what you're saying. It's crucial. It's important. You're talking about follow-up. All on board. I'll agree. I'm sure we would. But why? But that's what we're doing. We can do that. We absolutely can do that.
We can or can't.
We can.
No, we can.
That's right. The city attorney is saying we can do it officially. We can say we vote to put this on the agenda, and staff can't say no. If it's an action of this vote of this commission that says put on the agenda, it will be on the agenda because we took an action to say it's going to be on the agenda. That's the clarification.
But yet at the same time, it's our responsibility to work with staff and see and receive their feedback, I think, on when we should put it on the agenda.
Well, we can't.
I think
again, we can't discuss the item
with staff. Staff can discuss it with us in a public forum. Staff are here to guide us when we need feedback as appropriate. I do think what you're saying is excruciatingly important, but I do not want to discount or minimize the importance and the role of staff. That's all.
Well, basically staff, if we say we want this item on the agenda 30 days from now, staff has 30 days to go through it all, work it all out and bring it back to us so we have something to work with. Okay? An action item we can take. That is the time that's given, is the staff gets a whole month to work out the details. Once we said, let's put it on the agenda. We can, once at the next meeting, we can decide, no, we don't want to act on this thing. We can say, no, forget about it. But at this particular meeting, we can say, put this on the agenda, and the staff has to do it. That's again, the Brown Act does not stop this commission from saying we want to put things on the agenda. In fact, that's under the city code, that's under the state law. We have the authority to do that, even though staff has not put it on as an action item to schedule an action item. That was the absurdity of what was being presented to us. Is if you had to have an action item on this agenda to take an action item for the next one, and that left me so confused. I said that can't possibly be right. And the city attorneys confirmed that that's not the way business should be conducted. Okay.
Okay. Yes, Ba, Commissioner Ba.
So what we're putting on the agenda for the next meeting is an item to, this is the way I'm understanding it, is an item to reword or state our feelings about the opportunity for us to give comment on presentations that staff give us where they have normally told us it was either a yes or a no, an up or a down vote. That's the one thing that we needed to have clarification on, right? So that is what we're voting right now to put on the agenda for next time. Am I correct on this? And we know we can do that because you, Commissioner Richardson, found out that it was okay to do that.
That was my motion to use what the city attorney said to remedy this. He couldn't answer the question yes or no as to whether or not we're restricted to the staff's recommendation. He said that the agenda needs to reflect an alternative could be taken. If the agenda then says an alternative could be taken besides yes or no on the staff recommendation, then we're not bound by what the staff recommends or not recommends. And we can just, all this stuff we ought to be discussing next week as to how we want these agendas to proceed if we decide to put this as an action item on the next agenda.
It's just going to be how we want to word future presentations from the staff so that we have the option to give comments, correct or no?
Well, it's not a matter of comments. And again, this reinforces why I felt there was need for clarification. This is an action. We're just not going to comment. We can comment all we want to, and we have on every item that's ever come before us. But when we say we want to take an action, we want to file this particular document, or we want to say this is such an important aspect, and we want to go on the record as saying that this type of thing, like the Green New Deal or something, we think this is so important. We want to vote and participate in this. And if that's not presented to us as to vote or not on the agenda, then we're prohibited. So we need to be able to say we want on the next agenda to take the following action, and to say we're going to vote to put that on the agenda, and the staff is going to prepare all the reports for it, so that we have all the necessary information we need at the next agenda to vote on it.
So what you're asking is for us to have a motion to have the ability to remedy the items that we place on the next agendas, action or not action.
The remedy, the way the staff prepares the agenda,
Okay.
yes, so that we're not bound into a situation where we can't take an action if we feel we need to.
On presentations.
Presentations was an example, or
Staff reports.
yeah. Okay, so
Chair Matthias, this is
yes.
Can I make just a suggestion for the commission as you take this action? I think it might be beneficial to also have the city attorney and the city clerk available when you have this conversation. I think it would be a really good and valuable conversation for this commission if we had a rep from city clerk and city attorney as you have that discussion.
But certainly, I would welcome the city clerk and the city attorney to be in all of our commission meetings. We could have avoided going through some of the kind of discussions we just had to go through because we could have gotten clarification at the moment that these items came up. So I would welcome that. In fact, both of them were copied on the email correspondence I had with them, so they're familiar with the questions I've raised. And yes, any further guidance they want to give us as we decide we want to request changes in the way the agenda is prepared, the way its language is presented, in order to leave us with the ability to make decisions, as opposed to sit and listen and then let things go. Yeah, I would welcome them to come. I certainly suggest that they do.
Action. Okay. Any other comments? Okay, so let me try this again. So who would like to, or move to approve the motion to, or a motion to approve the ability to add action items to the agenda for the next agenda?
No. The motion would simply be to direct, add an action item to the next agenda to direct staff on how we'd like to have agendas prepared for us.
Okay,
Make it that simple.
Action item to agenda for staff to prepare.
As to how staff is to prepare those agendas for us, yes.
As to how staff will present or prepare for us. Okay, so a motion to approve add an action as to how the staff will prepare for us. Motion to approve an action as to the agenda as to how the staff will prepare for it to us.
I think that's simple enough, yes.
Okay. So you for Richardson, you're first. Anyone want to approve that or second it?
Ed, you're on mute.
You're mute on.
I'll second that, even though I think all we have to do is have the action written up and given to Tina, and Tina can put that on the agenda anyway. But if it's to meet what we're trying to achieve today, then I will second it if we can.
Just to make it official, I think that's a great idea. So, okay, Monica, would you mind taking the roll vote?
Okay, Commissioner Ball.
Aye.
Commissioner Guevara-Gluyas, absent. Commissioner Corrigan.
Aye, but I'm not sure what I'm about to say now is possible. Aye, on the contingency that Commissioner Richardson is able to work closely with staff in order to or Tina in order to illuminate the complexities of the phenomenon, because I do not want to see this resurface in the future.
Commissioner Legaspi.
Aye.
Commissioner Richardson.
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez, absent. And Chair Matthias.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Vote is the approval is unanimous. So thank you so much, everyone. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, the final question, I guess, who on staff would you like to have me forward the correspondence that I had with the city attorney and the city clerk? So you have it on your record.
So that was directed to me, I assume.
No, I'm asking city staff who
you're okay.
So they have copies of the
follow.
email. Right now, all they have is the things I just said on this thing. They've not seen the emails.
Commissioner Richardson, this is Secretary Rodriguez. If you like, you go ahead and forward them to me, and that way I can make sure that the appropriate staff receives it.
Okay, I'll forward it to all the emails that I have back and forth on the matter. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. How about adjournment? So it is 7:28, And I am adjourning this meeting to May 10th, 2021 of the next regular meeting of the Sustainability Commission in conference room C101 in Building A at City Hall, Chula Vista, California. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night and have a great weekend. Thanks.
Thank you, Tina, and congratulations.
Oh,